Hello and welcome back to another episode of Corgi Town, USA, a podcast for pets and their people. I'm Candy Kemp, owner of Corgi Town, USA, the future of the resort for pets and their people, Corgi themed. In my lap is our spokes corg, Chuckles. He likes to slink down under the table and get cozy. I also have Mortimer and Booger next to me, Hammer's somewhere around here. And joining us remotely today is Kat, our executive producer.
Hi, I'm Catherine Napoli, and under my desk is one. Oh, look at he's looking up at me like this. Is one Mr. Digby. In the other room is Wiggin, the honorary corgi. Um, yeah, so a little bit of remote action going on today.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate Kat coming in and joining us remotely since she couldn't be here physically. But I wanted to do this episode on health and longevity of your corgi. All of us want our pets to have as long and as healthy, happy, comfortable life as possible.
Right.
As most of you who listen and follow know, I talk about Lilo, the most precious boy there ever was. I had him from 2004 to 2019. He was just a month shy of his 15th birthday, and I felt so blessed to have him as long as I did. And I also had a little girl who I lost tragically and unexpectedly from kidney disease at 8. And that was a shock. And so going through all that, we look back and say, what can we do to have them here as long as possible, but also as healthy and as happy as possible.
Exactly.
And
I was going to say, and not the same breed. Wiggins breed, which is an Australian cattle dog or a blue heeler, they are a long-lived breed. Um, and the longest supposed cattle dog lived 30 years.
what?
Um,
Wow.
my one of my right, and it, Wiggin is 14, and Eric expects we expect him to live, given how much he runs and jumps and everything at age 14, at least another 3 or 4 years, if not longer. It's just a long-lived breed. Going to cats, my cousin had a cat that lived to 24. That cat's mother lived till about 20 or 21, if I remember correctly. So it could be the breed, it could be the diet, it could be any number of things. We even
Yeah.
see when they talk about people who reached 100. Well, I had clean living, and I went to church on Sundays, and I did all this wonderful stuff, and then you interview the next person the next day, and it's like, oh yeah, I smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and I drink whiskey, and
Individual health. Individual
individual
health.
health,
We
and
and genetics. We know Betty White drank right up until she was 99, almost 100, and we know she liked to have a beverage or two.
that's right. So
Mhm.
and there's underlying things that we should look at, I think,
Well, we're
that are
we're not here to we're not here to share expert advice, but we
nope.
did we did have Jeri on before, and her first corgi lived to 18. So
Yeah,
I want to bring her back and talk about and also as a tribute to this precious boy named Hambone. So should we bring her on and have her talk about that?
absolutely. Let's talk to Jeri. She's a wealth of
Awesome.
information.
Welcome, Jeri. Oh, she's got a corgi in her lap.
This is Hammy.
Hammy. Hi, Hammy. You're beautiful. If you're listening and not watching, as we often do, I encourage you to go to our YouTube page so that you can see these adorable corgi babies.
Yes, indeed.
Well, thank you for coming and telling us about Hambone. If you're like me, Lilo was the one that started it all, right? We get a corgi and we're like, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. I need more. OCD is real. And you have one that starts it. And I tell anyone who will listen about the legacy of Lilo. And people that meet me that haven't met him or didn't know him, I'm like, sit down. I'm going to tell you a story about the most precious boy there ever was because everyone needs to know about this legend. So I we love tribute stories, and this episode we want to talk about health and longevity of your corgi. So I thought, why not bring you on, talk about Hambone's legacy, what you think contributed. So can you share with us? Part of it's how you get them, and we talk a lot on the podcast about finding reputable breeders, and it's actually changed over the years. So we know about genetic diseases that we didn't years ago, and things are a little different now in a lot of ways, but we, without being preachy, we try to guide people on how to purchase a corgi, get one that's mindfully bred, so we know that's part of it. But as we're talking about this, please tell us the story of Hambone, how you got him.
So I think I alluded to why I picked the breed in the last time I was on.
Please tell us again.
Yes.
David Letterman's stupid pet tricks had a corgi on named Pip, and it was an obstacle course. That's why it was so cute.
Who wouldn't be seduced by that?
What's that?
Who wouldn't be seduced by that?
I know. I know. And I'm a fairly lazy person, and someone had recommended, like, don't get a Jack Russell. Like, it's not going to turn out well for you. So it was a corgi, and I went to your point about breed and how breeders. I went to a corgi dog show, like an AKC local show in Southern California, and I met breeders. And that's how I kind of, got introduced to the personality of the breeders. And the first breeder I met was really mean and very judgy.
Oh no.
She just was not nice. And then the woman that I ended up going with, her name is Karen Hook, and she no longer breeds, and she was so nice. And I visited their place in it was Yucaipa, California, and her husband were so nice, and they had the place was super clean. The husband, said it's a hard job because you have to let go of dogs all the time, and he didn't like it. And
that means they care a lot.
Yeah, he didn't like having to give up puppies, and so that's where we got Hambone. He was the runt of the litter, and he was the last to go. And he, and I knew nothing about dog ownership or anything because my parents were not dog people. So that was my first pet ever.
Wow.
And yeah, and he's just a great dog. He was a really big corgi. He was about 32 pounds. He was a classic, beautiful sable, even with like a little mark on his face, like, what I'm talking about. They have perfect markings. Everything about him was awesome.
My Lilo was a sable too. Yep. And he was big. Yep.
And everyone loved him because he was such a gentle dog, like just loved people. I think he thought he was a person sometimes. He'd always pick the most manly person in the room and go sit next to that person, I don't know. So to your point about genetics, like, because I didn't understand, and he lived to 18, because I didn't understand very much. I mean, he used to eat iams. He ate like horrible food the first probably 5 to 6 years of his life, because
we didn't know that. We didn't know that then. The research wasn't out. As far as we knew, when we grew up, you go to the store, you get your dog kibble, and you feed him
grocery
kibble.
store, right?
Yeah.
The big bag, and then then all of a sudden there was, then we got Cupcake, but this isn't about Cupcake. And then all of a sudden food started to change. Ollie was the first one that we got that was human grade, cooked, not kibble. I got Ollie, and then then we moved on to Nom Nom. Now, like, but to your point, it's like his formative years was literally grocery store grade.
Mm-hmm.
and he was never sick. That dog got sick one time, and that was it. And that was because I was feeding him raw, and
Mm.
he got a crazy stomach. He had to go in the hospital for 2 days.
Aw.
Yeah, and then the vet was like, "Look, raw is it's a risk sometimes. It could be contaminated. You don't know." But he got sick one time out of the 18 years I had him. So, um, other than that, um, once we started to understand more about diet, and really kind of paying attention to their health, I didn't really understand about IVDD.
Yeah.
I didn't understand about the back problems, and so he started to get um uh and also this story is also about what I learned. So like what I transferred from him being a dog owner to my current pets, right?
Sure.
So, um, IVDD, arthritis, all those things he suffered from. He also suffered from kidney issues, that I found a company called Pet Gnostics where you can do at home pet urine testing. So I was really lucky to have great vets. He even had like a rehab vet, because he ended up getting like a herniated disc, had to get surgery.
Oh.
Yeah, they were like, "We're gonna, this dog's too old." This is another vet. He's too old. Uh, don't do the surgery. And my personal vet was like, age is not a disease. He's a healthy 15-year-old dog when he got the surgery because I know you guys. I know who you are, how you treat him, how much attention you give to his health. Go for it. He got the surgery, and then he lived for 3 years after that. Like it just at the end of the day, it's never enough time. Like that's what I
Right.
tell everybody.
Of course.
But you do the most you can, but you really have to pay attention to like the consistency of going to vet appointments, senior care. Once you get past a certain age, you need to go to the vet more often for blood tests, for urine tests, ultrasounds.
Senior blood panel. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I highly recommend ultrasounds. He was impacted at one moment, like
Oh.
we didn't know that. He had crazy bladder infections. Um, he was, like when people say their dogs are incontinent and they just pee in the house.
Yeah.
Well, basically what happened with Hambone is that he wasn't incontinent, is that his bladder was so full of old pee, it would just come out. And the
No.
reason is he had repetitive uh UTIs, and so he was resistant to the antibiotics. So the only way I found that is they did an ultrasound, and you could see his bladder was way bigger than normal, and you could see a ring of like dark urine.
Ooh.
And
Goodness.
so yeah, so then they expressed him, 100% got all the urine out. They did a bacterial culture and they said, yeah, he is it's he's not going to, you keep bringing him in every 3 months because antibiotics it's not sustainable, right?
Right.
Then he had to go on a crazy antibiotic, cleared it up. Then they found out he was impacted. But so like as they age, um there's things you could do to uh not make them regress because of the poor health, which is kidney issues, arthritis, um, that they're impacted, they're uncomfortable, they're not pooping. Like there's all these things that you could kind of look at versus, oh, I'm just gonna let my dog age, and then when something goes wrong, we all know what happens when something goes wrong. You're like, it's too late. But there's all these other things you could do to kind of figure out or early detect as best as you can, even though it's almost non-existent. But yeah, so that
Yeah.
was Bones like 18 years. Super healthy dog. most likely genetic, but the things that I could do for him, it took some time to learn, and so now I'm putting that upon my dogs now. For example, Cupcake, who is 15, she now goes to rehab to get stretched so that she doesn't get the advanced arthritis, so that she doesn't, have back issues. Because as they get older, they put on the weight, they
Yeah.
slip around, and then before you know it, they get a herniated disc. I mean, that's what happened to Hambone.
And there's stretching that they do for this?
They do stretching. She does acupuncture.
I'm
Yeah,
very interested in this because Hammer, who's my senior now, he has hip dysplasia,
yes,
and we had surgery on the one side.
yeah,
I rescued him at 4, and at 5 is when we discovered he had really bad hip dysplasia. So we had the surgery, the acetabulum surgery on the one side, and then the recovery was pretty intense. a,
yes,
a lot of hydrotherapy. You had to keep up with it, keep it. Basically have to build a muscle joint because they take the joint away, for those that don't know. And he recovered well. And all these years, he's been a champ. And I thought, wow, awesome. We've dodged it until about the last 6 months. And now his other hip is failing him and starting to slip under him. And the scary part is I don't know if he's at risk for GM or not. He's a rescue. I don't have that history on him.
you can
But
get a test for that.
yeah, you can get tests for that, but at this point, I want to keep him as mobile as possible for as long as
Yeah,
possible, regardless. But
yeah,
we have a cart now that we're getting him used to because the vet, and I agree with my vet. He's 11, and that the risk of the surgery, because it is an invasive surgery, and the heavy recovery involved might be harder on him at his age now. So now we're trying to measure, but I'm interested in the stretching because he also has arthritis, and we get the Pentosan injections
yeah.
for the sore joints, as well as some other things we're doing. And I'm sorry to segue there, but I'm very interested in the stretching.
So,
We have not tried that.
so basically, the vet that we go to, they're located in Southern California. It's Beach Animal Rehab, and what they do is they do strengthening exercises for the dogs. It's corgis are long, so I'll just this is just what I see is they go through an obstacle course where they're walking. I'll be like this, where they're walking like this, so that they are getting the traction of their back. They are going under poles so that they're strengthening their abdomen, right? And then they also do laser therapy. They do stretching, because at the end of the day, the more mobile, to your point with the cart, you want to strengthen the muscles, but you also want to get the joints moving. So what I've noticed with Cupcake, and she has um, not hip dysplasia, but one of them, it's like there's not a lot, right, holding in the ball.
Hmm.
Um, she's doing all these exercises to strengthen her butt muscles so that it's holding the hips in place better. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like what we would be doing if we were going to Pilates or yoga. It's like literally like getting her to sit up and down, like getting her to balance and all, like strengthening muscles that they don't normally do by just going on a walk.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
yeah, so um, I took Hambone to this facility. He rehabilitated from surgery, to your point, in less than 2 months. He
Wow.
was standing in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So he got really lucky. I mean, his hair really never grew back on his back, but like literally, it was kind of like how did he did the hydrotherapy, but he had also been doing a lot of the physical therapy, which is the stretching and the laser therapy, and like going through a course where they're lifting their legs up because they have to walk over things. It's like and they also give you instructions how to stretch them at home.
Yeah.
Oh,
So you're stretching like back muscles, thighs, paw, like everything. It's actually like I've noticed, Cupcake is not, she's a senior dog, and she's very limber. I don't know if that's the right word, but yeah.
yeah.
not Hambone at her age. Hambone was like having a hard time getting up, and he was like kind of hopping the back legs because of the arthritis. Yeah,
Right.
she's very much on, I think a better track.
Well, thank you for telling us about the stretching, and I think I've heard about it before, but haven't put as much thought into it. And we're in California all the time, usually for corgi events, so may have to look into stopping by that clinic with Hammer and getting some because I'm it's all about keeping them as healthy and happy as
Yeah,
possible for as long as possible. And I
yeah,
agree that I don't want to do the surgery on him at this point because it was pretty intense. It was several months of building up that muscle joint, and I've kept up with the swimming and the walking, and he's still starting to fail on it. And that
yeah,
was just one of those things that could have happened.
yeah.
So I'm very interested in the stretching because yeah, he is stiff. He's kind of stiff.
They
Yeah.
like click when they walk. They're like, click, click, they're
Yeah.
not fluid. And
Right.
Hambo, I noticed like walking down a hill, it was like his back legs would be like, boop, boop, boop. It would be hopping more than his front. I was like, what is going on? I had no idea that it was like an arthritis. It's like another thing. You're just like,
Yeah.
how do I not know these things?
And well, now you know, and when we know better, we do better. I was a massage therapist for 10 years, so stretching on humans is great, stretching on the dogs is
Yes.
great. And full disclosure, I don't stretch these guys, and I should. It's very different, so don't think that you can just
Don't
go in there
don't do it without help. Yeah.
right. So you
Don't do it
want to
without guidance.
do it. You want to do it with help. You want to certainly get a professional that does this and knows how to do it. But if you think about it, race horses, there's somebody to massage them all the time. There's somebody
Yeah.
to stretch them and do acupuncture and all these things, because somebody's livelihood depends on whether or not this horse
Yeah.
moves gracefully or click click clicks. Now your fur baby is your baby, so look into it, do your research,
Yeah. That,
and you don't want yourself, as you're aging, you're like, oh, I don't want to be this stiff person. I know for me,
yes.
my mom was always very active kind of until the end, and she became stiff, and I don't want to do that. you know I want to be as active as she was, but I want to continue that activity, so we want to do it for ourselves. Why aren't we doing it for our fur babies? And
Yeah. And when Hamlin got the back surgery, again, he fell off the bed.
mm,
And it's like, okay, all of our beds are platform beds now. That's another thing is if you have a corgi, and they're gonna fall off of something. They're gonna slide off, and that sent him in, and the surgery was 10 grand. Like,
Mhm.
you don't, it's so expensive,
Yeah.
and you're gonna do whatever you can. So the way I look at it is, for Cupcake, I need her to not I need her to be healthier, and back health is so important for corgis because the weight gain, they're
Mhm.
long, right? They when they like put their paws up, I mean, like look at how long their backs are. Like
yeah,
they're going to do that,
Yeah.
right? They're going to reach up and do that. So you I think it's for me it's more preventative, you know. I think taking them on walks is great, but the next time you're out in LA, um, you know, I could take you by their facility and you could see like the stretching is literally like stretching.
Mhm.
It's stretching their limbs, and then they do all of these exercises to then strengthen their core muscles, which sounds like, yeah, but they're having like one move that she does is she has to squat like limbo, squat and go under a bar, and you
Mhm.
can tell like like how many muscles is that really like exercising for her, especially her abdomen. Like it's pretty cool. Like they kind of know,
Yeah.
right? Just like a chiropractor knows what movements are going to affect your arms and your spine and stuff. It's pretty cool.
I imagine it's probably a little different per breed too.
Yeah.
As we're talking about corgis
Yeah.
being long and low, and I've noticed, and that is great that you have platform. I actually have a very high bed, but I train everyone to wait and line up and let me put them in bed, and then they don't get to get out of bed until they wait for me. Uh,
Yeah.
but I worry about Mortimer because he's my youngest and he is exceptionally long. He's longer than anybody. And
Yes, he was
that
very
back health. We have
tall
our
in that
friend.
part.
Yeah, I mean, he's like an accordion, And our friends from Three Crazy Corgis, I don't know if you know them, but we've
Yeah,
interviewed them a few times
I
with.
know Laura.
Yeah, so they have Cupcake, and Cupcake has IVDD and had the surgery. They have to express her bladder.
Yeah.
I'm
We
sorry,
went
Cupcake is your dog. Her dog is
Buttercup.
Buttercup, excuse me.
Butter
Buttercup, not Cupcake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking a lot during that time period, and we're good corgi friends. And yeah, it's just like it just hits you like, oh my god, my dog can't walk. Like
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
And the one thing I like to add to this is with Hambone, I had dog insurance from when he was young.
Mhm.
We get the surgery. I call the insurance company like, no, we don't cover that. I was like, he what do you mean? They're like, well, the breed is known for back problems. And I was like, wow, okay. I just spent 7 years on pet insurance, and yeah, that was really disappointing.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
always, I know there's a
Check
lot of
your policy. Check the policy.
exactly check your policy, and you'll be surprised, like what's not covered, because every breed is different,
Right.
like right. So
And
they're not.
I'm not throwing shade on insurance companies, but one thing to keep in mind, and this is across all of the different types of insurance, they are for-profit companies.
Right.
So
You're absolutely
their job is to get revenue from you as a regular paying customer and try to find ways to not do payouts because that's the bottom line and they are there to make profit. So those are all things to be considered if you look at policies. I'm not anti-insurance. I don't mean for it to sound like that, but that's
No.
just to keep in mind. They are a for-profit company. So when you go into looking at things like pet insurance, keep that in mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, I think Candy, I might have heard this from you, or I heard it networking. But there's somebody here in Phoenix that does human insurance and pet insurance.
No.
Yeah.
So
More options than we would have had when Hambone was a baby and Lilo was a baby for sure.
certainly
Yeah.
more options. And so just like you would talk to your insurance agent to decipher, what does that cover? What does that mean? See if
Yeah.
you can't find a pet insurance agent and say, what does that cover? What does that mean?
Yeah, policies are written by lawyers, so a lot of times you need help
Oh,
deciphering.
The disappointing part is the surgery for Hambone was 10 grand.
oh,
They misdiagnosed him. After surgery, they're like, there's something wrong with your dog. You're going to have to put him down. He might have sepsis. So you may have to put him down. I was like, what? Because
Oh
a surgeon called me and said everything was fine. So he was in the hospital for 2 more days. I had my trusted vet call them, read the diagnosis. He's like, your dog, Hambone does not have sepsis. And then 2 days later, Hambone walks out of that hospital. They're like, it's a miracle. And I'm like, no, you guys didn't know what you were doing, right?
Mm.
Call the insurance company. Can you cover the other stuff? No, because it was part of the back surgery. I'm like, no, the back surgery was finished. Then he was diagnosed with like he might die from being septic.
Goodness gracious, how scary that whole thing.
Yeah, they literally told me to put him down that night, and I said no. I'm like no, and my husband said to them, just keep him overnight. If something goes wrong, call us. We went to sleep, woke up, no phone calls. We were like, what? and he lived for 3 more years.
Wow.
And they're like, no, you need to put him down. Like the doctor actually said you have to put him down. Like, no, I'm not gonna. He's a healthy dog with a herniated disc. Yeah, so I don't trust. I don't. It is really sketchy. Like, I mean, we could do an episode on like horror stories of things that you're faced with, and you might have a vet or a doctor that they're just going to say whatever and with no compassion, but then you get lucky and you have a great vet who knows you, and they'll tell you like no. And so what we did is we transferred Hambone to my vet. He hired someone to stay overnight, and like everything was fine.
Oh my gosh. Well, but I have to say that this is also another testament, just like our episode we did with you on the cancer, that you are a very attentive parent, that you pay attention, you use that balanced approach, multiple medical opinions coupled with your intuition as a parent, and not just taking it for face value. Second opinions are also very helpful. And we do actually have an episode coming up about what questions to ask a vet as you're looking. We have a friend that had a very unfortunate story that we will share in the future. It's heartbreaking, so that will be in the future. But that's kind of what we want to talk about is, with medical professionals, both veterinary and medical, it is called practice for a reason. Humans do make mistakes. We know lives are at stake, but they are human, and we want to approach that compassionately. And we so appreciate what our veterinary professionals do for us above anything. Like I won't move out of my town because of my vet. Like, I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't move. My vet is down the street.
Yeah.
So, we are so appreciative of that. So without it sounding like, I'm trying to say that it's practice. Humans make mistakes, but
if you don't like the vet, find a new one. Like,
you do want to ask questions. Yeah.
And
you want to ask the proper questions.
Yeah. And you want to ask before, you want to ask before anything happens. You want to ask before there's an emergency. You want to get to know your vet. You want to get to know your doctor, and you want to say, I feel comfortable with you. Jeri, you brought up that one doctor said no, but the doctor that you trusted said yes.
Yeah.
And Candy, you brought up, your doctor said no, and that's the doctor you trust, and you went with it. So if you don't trust the medical professional that you've chosen, choose another medical professional, because you will always second guess. And
they should be open to your questions. Mine
must be open to your questions. And
mine has good reasons for advising against surgery for Hammer. We talked about it at length, and she's always open to, this is a route we could go. Yes, I don't think so, in my opinion, and here's why. Someone that takes that approach, that's open to having that conversation.
And she knows you and your dog. When they told me that this is, it's risky, the other hospital says risky for him to get surgery at 15, they were just looking at a piece of paper. They weren't looking at the dog and looking at his medical. He's never been sick. He looked great. If you saw a photo of Hambone at 15, you're like, people would always be like, he looks like he's 10 years old. It's just, everybody takes care of their dogs differently. And it's also genetics. It's not just a number on a piece of paper. So that was really, it was one of the most offensive situations I had been in. And it
absolutely
made me, I wouldn't do that to a human. Just go, well, they're old, so like just don't do anything. Like, would you really do that? You wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You would do everything you can. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry that you went through that with them, but I want to, without taking too much time, we've taken your afternoon, and we appreciate you so much. I did want to leave the audience. Thank you for sharing your journey, what you applied to give Hambone a wonderful, long, and happy, healthy corgi life. Is there anything you want to share with the audience that you would like them to know about Hambone?
Hambone was a love child. His father got out of, the kennel, and he was a love child. He was a mistake, and he was born on Christmas Day.
Oh, Christmas baby.
And I acquired him on Valentine's Day. So everything about him was just like this. He was like a perfect being.
Yeah.
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 Awesome.
I still tear up because I miss him so much.
Of course, you miss him every day. You think about him every day. Talk about him
every day. And
Yeah.
I will like gladly show everyone that I like cry every single time I talk about him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a love child.
I love that. What do you want the world to know? He was a love child.
He's a love child. His dad escaped and they had him, you know.
It's so funny. I love it. That's perfect.
But I'll also add this. He was kind of an he wasn't perfect. But yeah, we all have those moments when you're like, my dog's kind of an but that was part of his personality.
He was a corgi. They have their own opinions on the way things should go.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a giant blown up poster sized picture of Lilo hanging in a framed photo in my entryway.
Oh.
So that
amazing.
And when we open Corgi Town USA, all the cabins will be named after my corgis, and so the suite will be the suite will be Lilo's lounge. So he's very dedicated. So I understand completely. Those are your legacy babies. You think about them every day. They're still with you. You just can't hear their paw steps anymore.
Well, that's why we got Hammy, because people were like, "You're crazy. You have 4." Hammy was born on Christmas Day, and he's a sable, and it was like, and he's a male, so that's why we got him, because it was like, well, it's the same spirit. Like they're and he's very much like Hambone, so that's why we got him.
Oh,
Oh,
I have 4 as well. I got Mortimer. Mortimer was what Kat calls my accidental pregnancy. I wasn't planning on a puppy, but Mortimer found his way to me, and he was born on my birthday.
Oh,
so we share a birthday.
Perfect.
That's a sign.
Yeah.
There you have it.
Well, thank you so much, Jeri, for sharing your story. We appreciate it, and we're giving lots of love, heavenly love to Hambone, and thank you for giving him such a wonderful life.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Have a good evening.
You guys, thanks for having me on. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. My heart is so warm right now.
Yes. Yes. It's, as I said in the beginning, it depends on so many different things. And yet there are so many things that we can be aware of and that we can pay attention to. And by doing those things, we extend a life, by being aware, by paying attention and taking action. When we're aware of pay attention, we can extend.
With mine, it's Mortimer specifically. It's just keeping him from eating things. My goodness. Even as we were having our discussion here, he was trying to chew on some cables and cords, and sometimes they make your job harder.
Exactly.
Well, Kat, we do. They make life worth living. That's for sure. But we are going to sign off today from all of us here at Corgi Town USA. We are here for you every Thursday. All things corgi lifestyle, health of the breed, traveling with your corgi. Again, every Thursday, we are a small business. You help us by liking and subscribing. Share our videos. Comment. Let us know what you think. Tell us what you want to hear, what you want to see, how we can bring good content to you. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. That's Corgi Town USA. We also have a website, Corgi Town USA. From all of us here, Candy, Kat, Chuckles, Mortimer, Booger, Digby, Hammer, Wiggin. Have a wonderful evening. Corgi on.
Corgi on. Bye.
Bye.